right. 13 February 2022. And today I've got my usual guest, Mr. Pangana Mtlanga. How are you, sir?
I'm good, my brother. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. And
It's been a long time.
Good. How have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been busy, but it's okay. Still.
Okay, fantastic. And today we've got a very quick discussion on what has been happening here in South Africa over the past few weeks. In fact, since January, foreigners have been under siege here in South Africa, especially local African foreigners, with a new phenomena called Operation Dudula, which has been going on. And initially, the police were working with these guys to get rid of drug dealers and other lawless characters. But now this has become a free-for-all, where the attack is now directly on foreigners and no longer limited to criminals. So it's now on every foreigner who is in South Africa. So I want us to unpack the issues here. What do you think is happening with the South African, especially the guys who are in these groups which are saying foreigners must leave the country? What is your view on this?
Well, my view is to some extent they are right. And we have to look at the system that has lagged in terms of actually identifying who should be in the country and who should not be in the country. But that is not an issue. But when you look at who is being identified as foreigners, like I said, I identified foreigners as most likely to be Zimbabweans. Those are the ones that are being identified as foreigners. But when you look at the whole issue, when it comes to crime, like you said, crime is crime, regardless of nationality, right? So the problem that we are having right now in South Africa is crime is being blamed on foreigners, as if the crime that is being perpetrated by South Africans is better than the crime that is being perpetrated by foreigners. So, in other words, the narrative that is there right now on the ground is South African crime is better than foreigners' crime. But we have to remember that these are criminals and they should be treated as such. And that's the problem that I see in South Africa. And putting a blame on foreigners as if foreigners are the root cause of the crime and not actually identifying the actual root cause of why we have got these crimes that Dudula is talking about. I think you saw the guy, Nhlanhla Lux Dlamini, right? And he's a militia. He was actually wearing a military regalia, but he's not part of the military and stuff like that. That's a militia stuff that is going on. That guy over there, right? That's a militia. So he's blaming other people for the problems that are in South Africa, but not actually tackling the issues why we have got these things that we have. And when you see people saying put South African first, we have to remember where it is coming from. We spoke about Herman Mashaba. That is the narrative that Herman Mashaba created amongst the people of South Africa. And what Herman Mashaba said was the problems that the South Africans have is because of the foreigners. And you will not prosper as long as foreigners are in your country. So we have got a lot of people who are still waiting for foreigners to be taken out of South Africa for them to start to prosper right here in South Africa, which is ridiculous when you look at that narrative itself. And it has gained so much ground, especially in terms of Joburg. I think you saw what is going on in Joburg right now because of that narrative that is pushing. So the reason why he actually resigned from being a councillor to concentrate on another thing is to concentrate on pushing this narrative against foreigners. And some other political parties are starting to buy that narrative as well and say that the reason why South Africa is in this mess is because of foreigners. That's the problem. That's what I see.
Okay, so let us unpack the real issue. Is this issue a leadership issue, a policy issue, or a community issue? What is happening in South Africa? Is the community now leading the politicians, or is the government failing to set proper policies on what should happen to foreigners? Because you know that South African companies cannot operate without foreigners. If you look at the JSE listed companies, almost 50 to 60% of the employees, qualified employees, are foreigners, not South Africans. Do we have a roadmap from the South African government to say, this is where we are and this is where we want to go? Is it properly communicated to the citizens to say, these foreigners that you see, they are actually keeping this country alive? For example, if you take a company like ESCOM, if you take the departments of education, if you take the banking sector in South Africa, it cannot operate without foreigners. Do we have proper leadership there? So
No,
take us through that.
It's a leadership issue, and also it's deep rooted onto the system that has been developed among the South African people with regards to the education system, with regards to what is important. That's why you find South Africa needs other people to fulfill the jobs that they do not have. That's why they require critical skills. I think you saw him and Mashaba attacking people who are in leadership roles in the education sectors who are actually legal and have got papers and documents, and they were saying that these positions should be filled by South Africans. But the reason why it doesn't understand the fact that they are in that position because they could not be fulfilled by South Africans and stuff. So it's deep rooted into the system of education in South Africa. When South Africa got its independence, actually freedom, not independence, because South Africa never got independence, but only freedom in 1994. So the education system has never been changed. It has stayed the same way. That's why you see South Africans are not being taught agriculture in the schools, because the system does not want South Africans to understand agriculture, basic agriculture and stuff like that. And because they know that if you understand agriculture, you can grow my vegetable and stuff like that. They don't have those simple skills. And because of the education system, if you look at in contrast to Zimbabwe, in our system, we have got guardians from, I remember from grade 5, we had to maintain a garden and stuff like that. So the education system taught us agriculture from grade 5, but you don't see that happening in South Africa. So it's deep rooted in the system of what is important to the South Africans based on the education system. So the education system is not teaching South Africans what is important that they should learn. And now that foreigners are taking those jobs, it's now a problem now, because those skills have become critical to South Africa.
Okay, let's quickly see what these guys are saying here during the march today.
All right.
Right, my network is a bit slow today.
Now, Tata, is this not forcing these business owners to do what you believe in as an operation?
We don't, listen, this is not religion. We don't believe in this. It's what it is. It's the laws of the country. The country has laws.
And there are people also that needs to enforce them.
Sorry?
Right, so that is the point I wanted to get to. This guy is saying that there are laws in this country against foreigners just coming here and doing what they want. They are selling in the taxi rank. They are running drug houses. They are taking jobs from locals who are qualified. So this is what he's saying. And the local young South African cannot compete with a foreigner who is willing to take anything. And they're also saying that the young South African cannot penetrate the system that is being run by foreigners. Are the laws being enforced in South Africa?
No, the system is not being run by foreigners. It's being run by people who are taking advantage of foreigners. Like we spoke about this earlier on. I think it was sometime in January. You find that they are also companies that are taking advantages of foreigners. We are so desperate in employing foreigners. They pay them minimum wage. I think you had the Minister of Labor from South Africa actually saying that even a person is illegal or legal should be given minimum wage, right? But you see that the system has been created in such a way that the companies are taking in advantages. So they are right there when they say that paying cheap labor and stuff like that. So for me, when you look at that issue, they are right. But it is a system that has been deep rooted into the system since 1994 that has not been looked into. And now we are seeing the results of what has been done by the leadership that has failed to actually take action in terms of what should be done in terms of labor. Because even if you are illegal or legal, you should still get minimum wage. But we still have got even illegals getting less than minimum wage, 3,500. And then they argue that fact and saying that we rather employ foreigners than South Africans. So that's why you find that, yes, they'll say that foreigners are taking South African jobs, but it is the system that is being manipulated. Remember, these companies are capitalist companies. And what they're doing is they want to maximize their profits as much as they can by employing people and pay them less. So if they can employ people less money, like what is happening right here in South Africa, that's why we have got this problem. And they've created a problem for foreigners as well. And this is where this hate is coming from now. Because now we are being blamed as we are the problem. But remember, we are desperate. We are coming from all over Africa to South Africa to find greener pastures. And at the end of the day, we are being manipulated. Because remember, a desperate man cannot negotiate. So if they say we're going to pay you 2,500 for the job that is supposed to be paid 5,000, they'll pay you 2,500. And the South Africans would say, he's taking my job. And remember, these companies are employing people because they know that this guy doesn't have documents and he cannot walk into the Minister of Labor and complain that I'm being paid money, because they know that they don't have the papers. But in actual fact, they do have the right to complain. Even if working conditions are not proper, they have the rights. Everybody has got the right to walk into the South African labor and complain that are being treated unfairly, whether you have got documents or not. But because of the narrative that you don't have papers, so you cannot complain anyway.
Okay, but can South Africa do without foreigners? I think this is where I want to go. Can this economy function without Zimbabweans? Without, I want to focus on Zimbabweans. Can this economy function without Zimbabweans?
Any economy cannot function without foreigners. When you look at the whole world economy, there's no economy that cannot do without functions. Look at Elon Musk there in the United States of America. He's a South African, but what he has done and what he's achieved, right, in the United States of America. You cannot function without foreigners. Foreigners bring ideas, and that's how you grow an economy. You grow an economy with ideas that are coming from outside that you do not have. All you have to do is to embrace those ideas. Like, even if you look at these things that they're complaining about, that people are selling, and that's entrepreneurship. And these are the things that some of the South Africans have learned from Zimbabweans, to be entrepreneurs, to come up with ideas, to actually be able to create income besides being part of being employed. Because the idea of an African is to be labor. So if you cannot be a labor, you can also create income. So any economy cannot function without any foreigner. Like remember we say, look at how much we sent to Zimbabwe, those Changani bags, the groceries that we send, those are exports. So if you look at the balance of payments, they equate to exports. So if they don't look at that way, that the amount of money, even legal or illegal, how much money these Zimbabweans are buying or any foreigners are sending to their foreign countries and buying them, creating employment. Remember, in an economy, you have to create demand, right? When you create demand, then you have to supply will go up because there will be need to supply those goods that are being demanded. So if there's high demand for goods and services, supplies goes up. So there's no country that can survive without any foreigners. It's about legislation. Like what they did with the ZEP, that was a good idea to make sure that the foreigners, right, they can still contribute to the fiscus, but everybody still contribute to the fiscus through VAT, because even if I buy my food and I still pay VAT, but I can still pay more tax if I'm going through the fiscus. So if I'm not documented, they are lacking, they're not getting much what they are supposed to be getting. All that they have to do is to control the issue of foreigners in terms of the papers and the documents and stuff like that.
Okay, so now let's wrap up on the roadmap. Obviously, from what you're saying, the South Africans, they do not have the necessary skills to run the economy by themselves. They need input from other African countries. What then should be done to remove this kind of situation that is there now, where the whole country is now turning against the foreigners who are here to assist to build the economy? What should the government do? Where should we say is the target? Should we say 10 years? Should the government come out and communicate and say, these people must all be out in 5 years? What should happen? What is the solution?
No, they do have the necessary skills on their own, but still, the skills are not enough without new ideas from other people. Like I said, in any country, you still need new ideas from foreigners, right? They have the skills. But if you limit yourselves to your own people, then you're going to be stuck at one place and you're not going to develop that way, right? So what the government should do is to educate their people in terms of how the contribution, come up with the figures, give them the figures, the actual figures of the contribution of the foreigners, whether illegal or illegal, in terms of the exports that we are doing. That small Changani bag that we are doing, it's an export. And if you sum up that one with 2 million Zimbabweans right here in South Africa, if you sum up that, if on average, you're looking at a very huge number that is going to balance the balance of payments, which is imports and exports in an economy. So if they don't look at that way, then it's a problem. But like I said, remember, this is now become politics, and we can see that the ANC is actually sacrificing the economy for their political survival based on the narrative that was created by Hemin Mashaba, which is against foreigners, and they lost seats based on that, and also EFF lost seats based on that narrative, because Hemin Mashaba is not in government. He doesn't understand these figures. He doesn't know, he knows these figures actually, but he's pushing a narrative that will take him into power by just giving it to the people to just push with the narrative of hate. This is just hate. This has got nothing to do with anything. Dlamini, we've got Dlaminis in Bloy. I've got Dlaminis in Chipinge. I'm from Chipinge. I've got Dlaminis. My name is Mhlanga. You see. So we are one people. We are one Africa. We are one nation. So if we do not unite ourselves based on that, then there's a serious problem, and we are not identifying the common enemy who is working against us, and we are concentrating on the things that do not matter and not concentrate on the things that actually matter, that makes Africa a bigger economy in the world. And as long as Africans are divided, we are not going anywhere. That's what I'm talking about.
But I think we need to answer the question of a roadmap. South Africa's employment statistics are shocking in terms of foreigners in the industry. If you go to mining sector and you look at the engineering side and management side, if you go to banking sector, if you look at the IT of the banks, if we say now let's all the foreigners leave the banks, they won't be able to function. Similarly, if you look at, let's take most of the big companies, the CEOs, people who are in the top management of companies, executives. Most of them are not South Africans. We're not talking about young blacks here. We're talking even of executive people at very, very high level. There are very few South Africans in those positions. That is where the issue of roadmap comes in, because Dlamini is looking at someone selling at Bara or whatever, or someone in Soweto at a rank. But the bigger issue is that South Africa does not have local skills at a leadership level. These positions are occupied by foreign people, not only from Zimbabwe. I'm talking about even people from the United States, people from countries that are not here in Africa.
Yeah.
So is that not a policy issue that needs to be addressed, not by people like Dlamini who are looking at a sweeper and a cleaner and someone who works in a restaurant, but at a holistic level to say statistically, where is South Africa now and where do we need to go?
Yeah, those are critical skills that, like I said, the system, right? The system actually made it impossible for South Africans to acquire those skills that they are now requiring from foreigners. So it's a policy issue with regards to the education system. If they don't change the education system right now and make sure that they have got those skills, they are actually training their people to make sure that maybe in the next 15 years, they have got the people with the actual skills. They won't need any critical skills from foreigners from all over the world, like what you're saying, right? So what Dlamini is talking about, he's just attacking the vulnerable, but he's not talking about these other skills that you're talking about when it comes to the mines and the banks and stuff like that. I've been to ESCOM, right? Then I saw a lot of engineers, right? Most of them are Zimbabweans, to tell you for a fact. And it actually pains me to see Zimbabweans actually working for South Africa and contributing to the economy of South Africa and not our country. It was painful for me. And also, when I did job there, I was also part of that, because whatever job I did there, I was actually contributing to the South African economy and not contributing to the Zimbabwean economy. You see, that's where the brain drain is all about. And we have to go back to the Thabo Mbeki quiet diplomacy, because Thabo Mbeki is the one who actually initiated, who actually went with those things with regards to taking skills from countries that have got political issues and bring them to South Africa so that they can grow South Africa. If you look at the trajectory levels of Zimbabwe and South Africa, the other graph was going up for South Africa and the graph for Zimbabwe was going down from 1997. So that's the issue.
Okay, so who needs to act? Right now, obviously, Dlamini's approach is confrontational and dangerous. Who needs to come up with a better approach? We had people starting off during the campaign period using this issue of immigration to campaign. But when we want to really solve this problem, to bring South Africans up to a level where they can take leadership in companies, not this for sweeping jobs. I'm talking about having South Africans as CEOs of big companies, being executives. Who needs to act right now? You say that there's need to change the education system. That is a long-term activity. What needs to be done now? Who needs to tell the locals that this is the situation that is there, give them the statistics and show them that the only way to solve this problem is not to chase a sweeper or someone selling veggies at a rank.
Okay, who needs to exit the political leaders, but they won't tell the people the truth because right now it's all about political survival. So they do not care about anything else. So they just tell the people what they want to hear, and people will take it. For example, if people want to hear that foreigners are your problem, then they have to run with that. That's what is going on right now in South Africa. So who needs to exit the political leaders? That's why I always say never trust a politician, whether who or what. I think you saw that even with EFF leader, Julius Malema, right? His approach also was kind of like different, but he approached the foreigners issue in a different way, but he was actually approaching the foreigners issue. So it was about political survival. So it depends what is important to politicians. And what is important to politicians, most people should know, is political survival. If they cannot survive in the political landscape, they don't care about you. They don't care about anybody else. That's what politicians do all over the world. All they have to do is get in power, and they can change the policies once they get into power. But for now, nobody's going to act on this roadmap and stuff. But you know the facts. We know the facts. You know what is important: the economy and the people. And nobody gives a good goddamn about the people from the politician side.
Okay, so this is not going to be addressed. This issue is going to be with us. Is it not going to end with a fight? Because if guys are going to a place to say foreigners are causing problems, what is the next thing we're going to see? Are we not going to see attacks on foreigners?
We're going to see attacks on foreigners. They're going to escalate from where they are. Remember, the foreigners are the pawns. It's like a chess game. Who is the pawn? Who is the queen? Who is the rook? Who is the rook? Who is the knight? Who is the bishop and stuff like that? And we are the pawns, so we're going to be sacrificed to win the game. Checkmate. It's all about checkmate. So what they are doing right now is they don't give a good goddamn about us. And they can sacrifice us as long as if we can make sure that they can have a checkmate. So we are the pawns. So we have to identify ourselves in a chessboard. Foreigners are pawns, and we are being sacrificed. And it is going to be like that. And we're going to be sacrificed. We're going to see an escalation of this violence. Like you see the rise of this militia group. Remember, we talked about it last year when we spoke about the ZEP. And then I said, remember, it's going to affect even the ones that are documented. Then they were talking about other people. Even you had Hemeni Mashaba talking about people holding position in the education sector who are actually documented. We are the pawns. We are being sacrificed. And we are not looking at the real enemy, because our narrative and perception have been shifted from who is the real enemy and who's pushing that, and we have succumbed to that, and we are mental slaves.
Okay, I think Mr. Pangane Mhlanga, this issue is going to be with us for a very, very long time. And it's very sad because I have a feeling that this issue is being dealt with from the ground when it's supposed to be dealt with from a very, very high level. And there needs to be, this needs to be nipped in the bud. What is happening now, where someone can just go on the street and start demonstrating against a whole group of people, I think this is very dangerous, because someone could just wake up and say, let's cut the necks of all these people. And it could happen. It's a very dangerous approach. And I don't think this is, the young guys who are growing up in South Africa, they are growing up with the view that they are entitled to a job.
Yes.
They don't care which company, where the company came from. They believe that they're entitled to that job. They don't understand the skills that are needed to run a company. And young guys who don't have the necessary skills are leading the conversation. The narrative is now being led by someone like Lamin. I don't think that guy has got any qualification or any experience in managing a policy, national policy. But now he's leading the policy discussion. Instead of having a policy discussion, we are now having an emotional discussion about general things. Like when you say, these guys are taking our jobs, or this company is employing 99% foreigners. I think that is a dangerous approach to the discussion. And I think someone in government needs to take a hold of this narrative and put it to the level of police, not the level of marching in the street. You can't march against someone called a foreigner. I don't get it.
Yeah, we might not see that in our lifetime when we see an actual politician coming up and actually telling the people the truth of exactly what is going on. I remember we spoke about the issue of employment. I think you have raised an important issue with regards to entitlement, right? You see, when we say like it's 46% unemployment, remember we spoke about it. We said that out of that 46% of unemployed people, you have to understand that there are about 20% of the people who are not even actually willing to work, even if you gave them the job because of the entitlement issue. You understand? Kuti yenda mochera kana matrench apa vanhu vanoramba kuchera matrench. You understand? So you find that even if they fall within the category of being employed, they're still going to refuse to be employed because they are entitled to be employed somewhere which they are not even qualified to be employed for. So you see, the 46% that we are working with is actually subjective. And it's not an issue with South Africa only. It's an issue with the whole of the world when it comes to unemployment. Because kune vanhu vasikatodi kushanda zvachose nyange makata say havadi kushanda, even though they are part of the unemployment. So you'll be working on 46, but in actual fact, it's only 26% of people who are actually willing to work, but they're going to find the jobs.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
Yeah, I just want to say that what should be done is we have to identify the common, the enemy who is pushing this narrative that has led to us Africans to hate each other to that extent, whereby we blame each other on petty issues when there are bigger issues that we need to address as Africans. Yeah, the most important thing that we have to do as Africans is to unite ourselves, is become one Africa, one economy, one country, one military, right? So we have to identify who's working against that. And they are doing that by pushing this simple narrative that people are taking and believing that the only reason why we are poor is because of foreigners. That's not the reason why people are poor in South Africa. It's because you do not want to work. You are not looking for work and stuff like that. So as Africans, let's be united as one people and understand the common enemy. I think you see that there's a lot of people who have got fake names on Facebook who push this narrative. When they push this narrative, it becomes viral. And when they start talking about foreigners, it becomes a fact when it is a narrative. We talk about drugs, we talk about prostitution. It's a narrative, but if it is poked against foreigners, people will believe it is a fact. But in actual fact, it's just a narrative that is being pushed by people with money. And I want to accuse one of these organizations like AfriForum. I don't mind. I just want to accuse them. They are part of this because I know they've got a lot of fake accounts and a lot of people who operate these fake accounts who push this hate narrative amongst Africans to divide Africans. As long as we are divided as Africans, we're not going anywhere. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Pagane Mhlanga. I'll see you again next week. This is a very, very sad topic. And this is our second time this year talking about this.
But can I respond to Leroy? Sibad, I see that Mr. Chamisa is happy about Dudula. Yes, he can be happy about Dudula, but that is not a fact that even if people are chased away from South Africa, are going to vote for Chamisa. That is not a fact. And people should also, even Chamisa should know that. It is not a fact that more Zimbabweans going back to Zimbabwe will vote for Chamisa. No, that is not a fact.
Right. Good night, everybody. I think we have covered only what we can do, but this is an ongoing story. These guys say they've got support in 8 provinces out of the 10, and they're going to be approaching the other 2 provinces to push for the... I think what they basically want is they want the foreigners to leave the country. And if it goes to 10 provinces, then we have a serious problem because it becomes an emotional issue and not a policy issue. So thank you very much, Mr. Pangale Mchanga. We'll talk again next week.
All right, thank you.
Uko kuno aho